Welcome back to another episode of Juxtaposed. I am your most gracious co-host, MVP. And today, we're going to talk about why you should not talk about your salary.
All right. Welcome. I can
Welcome.
no way repeat that illustrious intro that we just witnessed. But today's topic, we're going to talk about something I stumbled in due to a couple things that we, was happening around the world. We keep our fingers on the pulse, of what's going on. So to MVP's point earlier, why we should never talk about salaries. I personally think this is incorrect. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to jump into it. So to give a little back story as to why I find this interesting.
Okay.
And why this is a topic we want to talk about. So I want to say a couple weeks ago, New York, passed this law that said that you have to show your the range of salary for job postings. So in a conversation I had with a couple people at a happy hour, they were like, "Oh no, you should never do this." And I'm like, "But why?" And as MVP and I started talking, he also was like, "Yeah, we should never do this." And I'm like, "But who is that benefiting?" And so that's the setup or the premise of this whole conversation. So I'm going to let MVP kind of jump in say why he feels his opinion is correct, even though it's not.
Hold on.
You got it.
So it's a lot of things that Styles saying. I'm like, hold up. So I was curious about the topic because I'm not necessarily saying I disagree, but I do believe in being cautious, right? Mm-hmm. And so where I grew up in my environment, I was taught to keep your salary to yourself, right? And this means with family, friends, whoever, because it was I think it was coming from, obviously I was younger when this was happening, but like I think it was coming from a place of like, mind your business. So don't tell everybody your business. And in that moment, I didn't really understand that, but I was like, okay. But as I get older, I'm like, I do understand that when people hear about how much money you make, there are like consequences, right?
Yeah.
Good or bad, right? So some the bad. I mean, this is why you shouldn't tell people, right? Some people tend to hate, haterade. And so haterade. So when you tell them instantly, "Oh, why am I not making that much?" And it's like, bro, you are not me. Period. So, but then you can't really say that. So in their mind, they're just thinking this, and they might not even tell you like, hey, they feel some type of way that you're making the amount you're making, and they might not even be in the field you are in. They just the hate in the heart can build up because it's like, yo, me and this dude or this person comes from the same place. Why are they making that much? And I'm not. And so there's two parts. There's one, there's hate. And then the second is like, well, shoot, you got it. What's the first thing people say when you get a raise? Hey, let's go celebrate. Drinks on you. I know it's a joke, but nah, drinks is on you. You got it. So when I say that, Styles, what is your rebuttal to that?
So I want to say I can understand the argument for not telling every and anybody about your salary. I think where the part for me where I disagree to not talking about it is at work. Because at work is where you find out whether or not you're actually being paid what you should be paid, or you're being paid at the level you should be getting paid at based on your role. So I can agree with not telling every, how they say Tom, Dick, and Harry. Yeah, we're taking it back to the 90s. So if you don't know about that, you won't know.
I didn't know where that came from. Okay.
But the question really comes in at work, right? And I think that's where I think the conversation gets even more spicy. Okay. Can you should you talk about your salary at work?
You know how I love doing 2 parts?
Oh, yeah.
So 2 parts. The first part is, are we talking about employers to employees, and are we talking about employees to employees? Can we separate the 2?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I in the context, I think employee to employee should be the start. And then if we're basing it off of where we're talking about with the law that they passed in New York, which is also, I think you had said there was a similar law in Colorado, where it's like you have to show the range of the role on the job description, then I would say that it should be to employer as well. So I answered both of your questions with why not?
So let's slow it down, right? Let's start with the employee to employee, because the employer to employee is going to be a larger discussion, right? So I guess what part so I ask you a question. So if I'm your peer, and I'd be like, yo, Styles, how much you make? Instantly, I feel like asking that question is like asking a woman her age,
which we need to debunk, because there's a lot of people out here lying about their age. No, you're not 25. You're not 25 anymore, and that's fine. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
How about you show some respect?
Respect on what?
On their age.
I want you to show me the respect of letting me know that you are appropriately aged. Okay? All right. Anyway, we took that a different point. A whole different direction than that one.
Okay, but to bring it back to, I think it's similar. It's like, yo, that's like being in jail, and you be like, yo, what you been locked up for?
I don't know anything about that life. I'm sorry.
I heard about it. I heard about it. I heard it's taboo. It's taboo, bro.
To talk about why you got locked up?
You don't ask another inmate that, right? So I think that when it comes to salary,
this is new to me. I never heard that. First of all, I pride myself on not knowing much about jail because I never want to go. So I don't know nothing about that life, and I hope that I'm able to keep that through the rest of my life.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I don't want that. But yeah, okay. So the question is, why can't you talk to your, like, for example, if we're in a situation where we're talking about XYZ and I say, hey, I make this much, does that make the other person feel obliged to then share their salary? And why is that weird? Especially if you work for the same employer.
So I do think sometimes that might come into play, like, oh, you showed me yours, so I got to show you mine.
Yeah.
And some people, oh man, I love this. Some people might be embarrassed, bro. They might be embarrassed by how much they make, and you asking them how much they make, they have to expose their embarrassment to you. They have to be like their deepest soul, and like they're opening themselves up to you when you ask that question.
Well, here's the thing, and this is something. In certain places, you can search how much they're getting paid. Like if you work for the government, you can search how much that person's getting paid. You know that if you get this, you're this level, you get this much, blah, blah, blah. And it's pretty clear. It's transparent. When you're in the private sector, it doesn't work that way. So the fact that that person would feel embarrassed about what they're getting paid, which means that they're probably underpaid. And there should have been a correction at some point. But the company is probably saving money on the fact that they're not asking for it. And they don't know, they don't have any leverage to say, well, Jim is getting paid this much. We do the same or comparative roles. So why is my pay XY less, right? And that's the thing that I'm trying to figure out and try to do I'll have some open conversation about, because I think in going to the employee to employee part, you should be able to have those conversations, because by me having that conversation with you, you might be able to say, okay, well, we're working the same role. I know what to expect if I am going to this part, or I get to the same level as whoever. I know what to expect from my salary, versus when you're dealing with a company, you deal with companies that don't share that, and you could just be getting, taken advantage of. So it's like you're protecting the company at your expense. And it's funny, it reminds me of a situation in the office where Daryl was in the warehouse and
made up name, I assume.
No, Daryl is the guy in the warehouse. He was the foreman in the warehouse.
Oh, okay.
And Michael Scott, they were having a salary debate, and Michael was not making anywhere where he should be making for being a manager at the company for many years. And it was actually a big joke. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely look at it. But it is very clear that this is a common thing, because that show is old. But
you're talking about The Office?
The Office. The Office, the show. Sorry. I want to clarify. We're talking about the show. When I said Michael Scott, I'm sorry. I'm very Office.
Bro, I was thinking about our job. Oh, no. Why are you saying his first and last name?
We don't have anybody named Michael Scott.
Like, I don't know. I was like, yo, this is before my time, probably. And then as you keep going, I'm like, hold up. Okay. Is this The Office?
To clarify, I'm speaking about the show available on Peacock.
Okay.
Called The Office with Michael Scott. The American version, because the British version was trash.
It was a whole thing. I didn't even know there was a British version. It was which horrible. I think the British version came first.
Yes.
Right?
Nothing against the Brits, but The Office, we won that one. Being America, I don't know why I'm claiming it, but we won that one. You can't touch that one. But so yeah, go ahead. Now that you have the context that it's not talking about a person that's real, give me your thoughts.
So one of the key things I noticed you said was there was a whole joke about it.
Correct.
That is why I'm not telling you nothing about my salary. I've even to the world out there. I'm pretty sure y'all have had salary conversations with whoever. I have one question for you, and I want you to keep it real with Juxtaposed. Do you actually mention the number? Or do you kind of go around it like, yo, it's around this? Or yeah, like, it's percentage. It's not really like the actual number. It's like, yo, I make this percent. There's a reason why it's like that.
Yes, and that's what I'm trying to challenge. I want to put that on my back, and we got to start holding people accountable. Now, truth of the matter is, this conversation might get me in trouble. I'm not telling anybody to do what to do, but I'm telling you, I'm trying to tell, like, we should be able to have these conversations, because there's a betterment for everybody. I know that there's been people that I talk to, like in my friend group, and they're like, yeah, I make X amount a year. And I'm like, damn, I gotta get to that level.
Oh, did they tell you?
Of course. That's why I guess.
Hold on. They say roughly this amount, or do they give you hardcore like
numbers?
1,1,1,5,6,3.
Not to the
couple zeros.
I gotta assume it wouldn't be to the cent, right? Like they're not gonna be like, I make 100 59. Like I think it roughly they give you like, hey, I make this amount. And
okay.
To me, those conversations are always motivating. And if it's someone who makes less, it's like, okay, cool. We know we got to try to level you up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's never you are, being made fun of because of how much you made. I just know that is something that it's one of those things that is, in my mind, something left over from the days of the industrial boom where people just wanted people to be factory workers, and they just want you to be. That's it. You're a factory worker. You go to work. You punch in. You sign out. That's it. And we've seen a lot of that based on things that happen in schools, stuff like that. The question is, when do we start to challenge some of these things, bro?
Okay, before we get to that question.
Yes, man. I'm fired up. I'm fired up.
Before we get to that question, I guess the question I've been aching to ask you since we started this convo. Why do you care?
Why do I care?
And I'm saying it this way just to say it out there. Why do you care how much that other person is making?
If we are in the same,
why are you asking me this question? I guess
it doesn't need to be a question. Like, I'm just gonna come in, hey, MVP, what do you make, right? But if we're in the same field, working for the same company, and there's 6 of us, right? Let's say theoretically, 6 of us, same field, relatively same experience, same qualifications, but then there's 3 of us that are getting paid to whatever the max band is, and 3 of us who are not. Is there not some conversation needs to be had from an equity standpoint? This is the same, to me, it's this conversation that people have been having about equal pay for women. It's the same thing. Why are women in this in the same stat for stat matched up getting paid less? Maybe it's because they don't talk about the salary. I'm just, if we're not having these conversations, then how do we even garner enough information to go to the company and say, hey, you ain't right?
So what you're saying is, and I'm about to be an asshole. That's why I'm
please
doing all this dramatic stuff just to even say what I say. So what you're saying is, you want to know my salary for your own benefit.
For our benefit, because here's the problem.
Oh, it's us.
No, but here's the thing. If you think about
we in this together, huh?
We are, because if you are, for example, if I'm being paid more and you're getting paid less, would you not want to know? You just find with the distance that when we should be getting paid the same thing.
So, 2 parts. One, to just answer your question flat out, hell no, I want to be paid as much as more or more. But also, I do understand there are more levels to getting paid, right? Like, I might be like, yo, a person might be like, yo, I should be getting paid as much as MVP. But you don't come to work all the time. You don't come to work on time. You don't do certain things that MVP does. But that part isn't in the conversation. Only the salary is. And it's like, yo, the one part I hate is people thinking they deserve certain things compared to someone else, but we don't talk about what that someone else is doing to even get to that point, right? It's like, yo, I'm taking it a little bit deeper, but this is like when you walk in the street and somebody rob you. And it's like, bro, I've been working my ass off for this quality of life that you see, and you're like, yo, let me go rob them. No, you need to take yourself over there and work as hard as I am. But you don't see that. All you see is the bling bling. Every time I come around your city, bling bling. If it ain't worth about 50, bling bling. So I'm like, Lil Wayne, how boy?
I'm aware.
So, okay. So I'm like, I understand having the conversation, but I don't think people take in the whole conversation. They just look at the number, and I believe salaries aren't just based on number. Like, and this might be able to lead us to the company part, but when it comes to employee, which is what the part we're on right now, you making what you making, even if I'm in the same position as you, does not give you the privilege to make what I'm making if I'm doing extra things to make what I'm making. And I don't think that's a part of the conversation. It's usually like, oh, would you make it? Oh, man, I ain't making that. I'm like, my first question, I'm like, well, did you talk to the right people? What have you been doing? I've had people talk to me about their pay, and I'm like, bruh, you missed work for like 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm exaggerating with 3 weeks, but it's like, yo, you do this every year.
Okay.
And you only have, especially when you're not on salary, you only have a certain amount of days, and then sometimes it goes over and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm like, bruh, you used all your days and you're still taking days, but then you wonder why they're not giving you more money.
Okay, cool. Now that is based on clear, let's say, requirements of what is, or expectations of the job, right? But let's say, for instance, somebody let's go like super sci-fi. There's a clone of you. There's someone exerting the exact same effort. Doing it, like, literally, this person's your shadow. You can't get this person off of you. They keep doing everything that you're doing, but they get paid more than you. How do you feel about that?
I'm fired up. I'm fired up.
I'm
fired up. I'm like, hold up. I'll be like, and this is why I say it's a delicate situation. Because
It is.
I'm like, bro, how the hell you getting that? And I'm doing all this over here.
That's what that is what I'm trying to uncover. It's not just about like, okay, well, this person thinks they deserve it. Because you know what? At the end of the day, I've been around, and a lot of people that feel like they just deserve it, for showing up. Like, they deserve to be managers just to show up, deserve to be this, and it doesn't always match up. But in a space where you don't have the clear expectations, you don't have the clear, but you know that certain people are getting paid more because, let's say, maybe they bring the apple to the manager every day. Like they're getting paid more because they play the role of the, I don't know. I'm trying to say
it.
I was gonna say teacher's pet. It doesn't work.
I knew you was gonna say teacher's pet.
It doesn't work.
I knew it.
But no, it's like, okay, and let's take the money out of it. Actually, that's a good example. As we talk, let's take it back to school. That's something everybody can relate to that we don't have to talk about. And we still got to bring it back to the employer because we're still talking employee to employee.
Right.
When you got a test, you did a test, and you studied as hard as you can. You got an A+, and you see somebody else next to you. They got A+, but they cheated off of your page. How do you feel?
So that depends on if I let them cheat, right?
I mean, okay,
but
better yet,
better
yet, hold on. You get a freaking B, they get an A+, and they cheated off of me.
Heated. I'm heated. I'm like, hold up, bro. What you combine your cheating? You cheated off this person, and you ain't let me know?
But
I feel some type of way.
To land it back to the thing, this person is the teacher's pet, right? This is the person that stays after school every day, wipes down the board, brings an apple every day, or brings some, if the teacher's not health conscious, brings some candy, whatever.
Putting in that OT.
But then you start questioning, well, is this person getting stuff on their own merit? Now, I understand all this conversation kind of literally creates the reasoning why people feel like they don't share what they get. But it really, to me, creates a space where you can be taken advantage of. And so bringing it back, when you're looking at the employer side of it, what is your take on that? Yeah, we went on a rant, but I'm bringing it back because I'm passionate about this one.
It's just the thoughts that go in my mind. I'm like, when it comes to employer, tell me everything. It's completely different than what I was saying on the other side, right? I want to know everything because my issue is I feel like some employers try to be slick, right? And when I come into that main office and I sit down and I say, hey, buddy, I want my merit increase. I want my promotion. Like, whatever it is, I don't want you to make me feel like I'm crazy to be asking you this. it's a little bit easier for me not to feel crazy if I have the R word. Come on, Styles. You know the R word.
Receipts.
And so if we're going to talk about, and we're going to go into it, like the laws and everything that's going on right now, I don't think I'm mad. I'd be like, hey, this is one thing when you just do whatever you want to do. But if I can be like, this is the law, tell me what it is, and then you show me, and it don't equate to what I'm making, now there's a larger discussion. Now we have, it's not, you can't just say, oh, this is how you feel, MVP. No, I have digits. I have numbers here. So I'm not going to go far into it because I feel like this is your bag, but I do have some, I could be swayed to that side.
Here's the thing.
So sway me, Styles. Sway me.
Listen, I don't have the answers. No, I'm kidding. But I think that it is something to be said about having transparent salary, at least ranges, right? So you know that if you're this, you get this. If you're you these things allow you to get to that. If you don't have that, but you tell me I'm making what the average person makes for that, and I go and I check on, I don't know, insert company name here that shows you a salary, and they're saying based on my area I should be getting this, and then somebody in the, at the company tells you, well, yeah, those are different circumstances. You're probably getting paid over what you should get paid, and I'm like, based on what? Based on what, right? It creates a space where you can't even have the full argument. And who does it benefit? Who does it benefit if we work at the same company and one of us is being unfairly paid, and nobody says anything? Who does that benefit? That's my question to you.
I would love to answer it. I would say that it benefits the employee. Employer.
Okay, I'm about to say the employee. I'm like, wait.
No,
I actually even
put
heard
an R on that on the back end of that baby.
You know what's funny? I heard you say employer, and I know that you said employee. So I was like, yeah. Wait, hold on. What? Who? Come on, man. Get with it. Anyway,
focus.
But seriously, it benefits the
employer. Yeah. I mean, it's common sense though, right? Like if I can move in a way where I can get away and cut corners and like not pay people the way I should be paying people. Obviously, if no one's even having the conversation about it, I could probably get away with some stuff.
Correct.
That's just common sense, right?
But then the question then comes, where did this idea get rooted into us as employees? Because I don't remember anybody ever saying, don't talk about your salary in any handbook. I don't remember anybody ever really saying that to me directly, but I do remember it being something that was well formed in my mind by the time I started getting into like higher parts of my career. So that is my question. Where the hell did that come from? And is it set up for the employers to benefit?
And so I am torn, right? Because I do think to answer the higher level question, I do think the employer benefits. Mm-hmm. But I think across the board it is tough because, like you said, there's an instance where like I could know that I'm being paid above. If nobody's talking about it, I'm good. I'm Gucci, I believe is what the young people say.
Do they still say that? That feels kind of 1984. But go ahead.
No, Gucci ain't even been alive that long.
It definitely has.
But
But go ahead, continue.
Yes, all right. But it's like if we start having the conversation, and this is the part, like, because you got some people who are underpaid, which they would love to have the conversation, right? But then you have some people who are underpaid. I mean, who are overpaid, and it's like, yo, let's not have the conversation because then people are going to see like, yo, I'm making more than I should be making. So I think it's a tough. I guess it all depends on where you are in life, right? Like if you're currently underpaid, then hell yeah, let's talk about this conversation. I don't know if the person who's overpaid is going to be like, yo, let's have this conversation.
But realistically, you could be overpaid right now, and the pendulum can swing, and you could be on the lower end of something because somebody, like for example, management changes. You think they think you're right where you need to be. And let's say you stay at the company for 6 years, never get a raise because they always thought that you were there. Inflation happens, no cost of living increases, nothing. Now you're underpaid, and now you might have been overpaid at one point, but everything has adjusted, and your salary hasn't. And then what? So it's like, yes, it sounds beneficial to help you when you're up to not say anything. But in the long run, how would you know? Like, how do you even know if you're overpaid if this conversation never happens?
I feel like you probably wouldn't know, right? Unless obviously you're looking at, you're doing some research or whatever, but sometimes the company doesn't even base it off of that research, right? So usually when people find out anything, if they're low or high, is they tend to like have some conversation with somebody, and that person has talked about salaries, which is crazy because we started off with not talking about your salary, but they've had to talk, and then they're like, hold up, let me go do some research, and then you be like, hold up, I'm overpaid or I'm underpaid or whatever, and it's like, now your mind is the gears start turning, and I think that's what employers don't want you to do. They don't want your gears to start turning.
Because here's the thing: so they're saving money by not paying people equitably. But the question then goes even further, because we're talking about just base salary, and I have an example that somebody told me about them going. It's bonus time. They're getting bonus. It's a bunch of people, all same category, same category, same experience. They all have bonuses, and the bonuses are tied to the work that they did. They all hit the threshold that they were supposed to get bonus. But then when they start talking amongst each other, one person gets paid $5,000 less on their bonus. And there's no explanation for it. What do you do?
I would say that is due to teacher pet activities. But I don't like the word teacher pet because it makes it seem like you're being a punk.
Well, it works out
like
for
teacher's
people.
pet has always had a bad
it's worked out for
label to it, right?
It works out for some people.
But if you're so instead of teacher's pet, we say if you're going over and beyond, right? I believe that bonuses should reflect that,
yes,
right?
But if the bonus structure is set, hey, if you hit this point, you get this bonus. But somehow only 2 people out of, or better yet, 4 people out of 6 get the bonus. And 2 people get the bonus with meeting the same threshold, but somehow they get paid less. And they don't have this conversation. Everything, like in order to make this as easy as a conversation, we're just going to say on paper, they all hit their requirements to get the bonus at the level it was supposed to be. But when the bonus was paid out, half for one person. And then the funny thing is, the people had a conversation about it, and they're like, well, why is mine this? And they're like, oh, well, there was a clerical error. And then they go and fix it so the other people, so everybody now gets it. And I'm like, the person who got it could have said nothing. Oh, it's fine. But then they're not even looking out for the people who didn't get it. And honestly, if we're not going to create that space to have those conversations, someone's always going to get screwed. Whether it's people who don't feel comfortable having those hard conversations, whether it's, women, whether it's any disenfranchised group, they're going to be screwed because if you don't have a company that believes in transparency and doing things above board, somebody's going to get screwed.
So, just to confirm, Do you believe that bonuses should have clear responsibility?
100%. 100%. It should never be this ambiguous, like, well, you know, you kind of got it. No, if you're saying you can give me a bonus, because here's the thing. If people are calculating their yearly salary, we use the word salary a lot in this podcast, but if they're calculating how much money they made for the whole year, and they know that I need to do this in order to get this bonus to get me the extra money to get me to this point, but then you play around with that, and then tell them, oh well, you know, you got it, but you know we had to tighten our belts this year. But no, you promised me that. Theoretically, that was promised to me based on if I hit the KPIs that you put in place. So,
what's the KPI?
Oh, key performance index. That's it, all right? Key performance indicator. Thank you. I was like, I knew I had it right somewhere, but
just in case people out there don't know what that is.
Key performance indicator. But yeah, so like that's. I mean, I think it also, not to go deep into it, I think there's also something to be said amongst black people in corporate America, because we are definitely, I would say, afraid of having these conversations, even with each other. And I think it goes back to the conversation that you were saying earlier, where you don't want to tell this person because of whatever. But at the core of it, if we are to have a community where we do better, we got to talk about these kind of things. And I've always said it. Like I know people that, you know, a better financial position than me, and I'm like, yo, tell me. Give me some pointers. It's not about, you know, I want to show me your bank account. Let me see how much you got in it. It's but like, if we're building together as a community, me getting up doesn't affect you. So you have something to say. I can see it on your face.
So this goes back to community, right? I was raised that you can't tell everybody everything. Right? And so if we say, hey, we should have these conversations more, one of my concerns is, yes, there are people who are level-headed enough to have those conversations like we're having right now. But there's also people, like I said, it goes back to the jealousy part, but it also goes back to, with more information, someone could use it wrongly, right? Like, I would hate for someone to be like, hey, I go into my meeting with the manager and be like, hey, there's people out there like this. I don't understand it. They'd be like, yo, MVP makes this much. They literally say your name in the case that they're trying to make. And it's like, yo, because I provided them that information, now they have the ability to use that information. It's used for them, but it's almost like throwing that other person under the bus. And so when we say, hey, we want to build up the community, I'm like, I agree. Let's build up the community, do better. But I have some concerns. And that's one of my concerns, Joe. Like, everybody doesn't treat information the best, right? They don't use it. They use it for evil and not for good, you know, to keep it simple. So to that, Styles, what is your thoughts?
I think that it's a gamble you play, right? It's a gamble that you take. And honestly, if you're in a position of building versus hoarding, I can think of another word there, but you're keeping hoarding all the resources to yourself to make sure that you're good and your people you're the only one good, then you're going to end up in a place where that's a concern. I remember when I first started, a little history, when I first started doing music, I was so terrified to send beats out to people because I'm like, yo, they could take my beat and recreate it, and then once they recreate it, I don't get anything for it.
Real quick, is that a black community thing?
I mean,
or do you think that's do you think other ethnic groups think like that? Like, yo, they might take what I'm doing.
I think it's a human thing. But I think it's 9 times out of 10, it's built off of bad like experiences in the past or people you've heard, people screwing you over, blah blah blah, your bad experience, whatever. At the end of the day, if we live our lives based on the bad things that happen, we never make space for good stuff. Right? You should be you're very aware of what you've done. Don't make the same mistakes, over and over again. But if you live your life creating a space where everything is negative and you will not have a good life. You will not. That's at my young age, this is what I have come to understand.
What you 25 over there?
Yeah, no, I am 30 something. 6, 7. I honestly forgot. I literally don't really know how old I am. Because at the end of the day, does it matter anymore?
I don't know. My dad is up in age and he don't like it when people ask him his age.
Why?
He like, it's none of your business. And I'm bringing it back to the salary thing. It's like, yo, I get it, but it technically isn't none of your business. But when it comes to employer, I think we should know.
But the thing is, if you have a space where it's kind of held very close to the vest individually, how would you have that leverage?
I get it. And that's why I'm like, usually when I have passionate thoughts about things, I'm like, it's this way or it's this way. But I'm on the fence here. I don't really know because one of my upbringing, which goes back to the community and stuff and how we've been bred to think certain things. Programmed. There we go. Programmed to think certain things. It's like to switch off on that is crazy, right? For me. And then this goes back to where you're saying like, yo, think positive thoughts. But I'm like, yo, it'd be that one time I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to trust this person.
Well, but even with that, so we use a different example. Let's take a salary thing out of it. When we met each other, I had went to the point where I was like, I know all this stuff. I'm not sharing any information with MVP. That would have been a very selfish and a very bad approach to it. To me. Why? Because it says that I have this thing that this resource, because knowledge is a resource, that I want to keep to myself. And if I had done that, we literally wouldn't be here right now.
I have a rebuttal.
Okay. All right, let me hear it. I'm going to shoot it down, but let's go.
You probably won't.
Okay.
I'll put 5 on it. Got 5 on it.
Double or nothing. Let's go.
There had to be a level of trust there before you divulge that information. Come on. Give me my $5, man.
Hold on. No.
Give me my $5.
Because here's the thing. I look at it this way, and you talk about our first interaction. I could have, when you, I don't know if we talked about it on here, but
I don't think we have, I know exactly what you're about to talk about.
I could have said, like, he brought me some music, and everybody knew I was into music, and I could have said, sounds great, and not given any feedback.
Right.
And that feedback, literally, I'm sure I've told people that, and they're like, oh, I'm giving them like my honest feedback, and they're like, oh, you just a hater. No, but it's literally, I gave that because not to say I ain't got no plaques on my wall yet. You see no plaques up there yet. You see, I ain't got no plaques over my head yet, but my thought is if I can help this guy who I didn't know.
At the time, yes, this is true.
If I can just say, hey, maybe, if he listens, cool. If he doesn't listen, fine. But I know that he came to me and he got his honest opinion in a place where most people will not give you their honest opinion. And there was no trust there because I didn't know you. I literally didn't know you. I seen you a couple times. We exchanged the cordial head nods. That was about it. So that's the rebuttal. I expect a drink next time we go out because I don't think the trust is as big. I mean, granted, I guess I'm gonna take you gotta give me $250. We'll split it in half.
Like, hold on. I want you to be very clear. This is being recorded.
I don't necessarily say that I would, throw that out there for somebody who's playing music driving down the street. You asked my opinion, right? So there was a conversation. Maybe there was trust on your side coming to me, but
for sure, I'm not. The only reason why this goes to why I think you owe me a drink, because there was a level of vouching for you who I didn't know why I even cared to bring it to your attention, because someone vouched for you. And the person who vouched for you, I had a level of trust for them. And I'm pretty sure when it was brought to your attention, there was a level of vouching from the person who brought me to you.
Yeah, but I think that it didn't matter for me. I'll tell you why. Because like people always bring me music. I always literally from the time people know that I make music, people are like, oh yeah, I'll check this person out. And if they're good, I'm like, all right, yeah, man, that sounds good. If they're not, I'm gonna say it. Like, I don't know, man. And I've had people tell me that's not the right approach, and I'm not saying you should give it up. I'm just saying that wasn't it. Like, that's literally not it. That does not sound good to me. Because I literally, who am I? I'm just someone giving you opinion. But I say all that to say is, if you don't have these conversations, literally, it's a perfect example. The birthing of this whole thing came to fruition as a result of us having these conversations. And then we're like, oh, you know what? We should have a podcast about this, to spur in everything all the work we do together, for In Crowd. So if we don't have those conversations, how do you even do that?
So, question: with you having the beliefs you have, right? Are you okay with sharing that information, even if the person doesn't want to share that information with you?
It depends. So, like, we've all been in situations where it's been a little bit parasitical. Parasitic? I don't think that's a word.
I know what you're talking about. I don't parasites.
I don't know if that's
leeches.
I don't know if that's an actual word.
Munches. I don't know. Sorry.
Parasitic. There we go. Shout out to the producer.
Shout out to the producer.
Keeping us in check. But yeah, no, like, we've been in those situations where people take, and you're like, okay, cool. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I think you're always going to deal with that at a certain point. And I feel specifically in certain industries, you're going to deal with it even more. But the question is how much you're willing to take. That's really what it gets down to. I answer your question with a question.
How much
are you willing to take? Like you said, are you going to do this to someone who's not reciprocating your
Right.
But like, okay, yes, but if you're telling this person all this stuff and they're literally taking your ideas and not, they're not giving anything back to the coalition, then what?
And so, and this is now we're getting a little bit personal, right?
Oh,
yeah. My level of movements is I usually keep things close to the chest, to the heart. I'd rather you show your hand before I show my hand, right? And that's probably giving too much information, but it is what it is, right? Like, I've been in situations where I don't know what you're talking about. And then you be like, yeah, but I make this much. I'm like, oh, well, damn, I make this much. Now we friends. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I guess me, personally, I have to find that balance, right? But another thing about giving people information, right, is when they start asking you how you did it. They start asking you for tips. And it's like, one of my issues is I don't like providing information if I'm not very, like, versed in that information.
Why?
You know what I mean? Like, I don't try to lead people astray. And so, mind you, that advice might not lead them astray, but I'm not going to be like, so for example, if we in the streets and someone's like, yo, how do you get to Nordstrom's? Some people, they don't know, but they'll be like, yo, just go down this way and make a right, make a left, keep going straight, even though they don't even know. or they're not sure.
But why?
So
why did they do that is the question.
I'm not that type of person. I'm the type of person to be like, yo, I don't know. And so when it goes to like, okay, oh, you make this much in VP, what did you do? I want to be able to provide actual things that you can do, right? And if I'm not at that mind space to provide that information, I'll probably try to avoid the conversation altogether. But you see what I'm saying?
That is the thing about it is, and my one rebuttal to that is the idea that you have to have it kind of like organized or figured out, right? And I think at the core of it doesn't always need to be that well thought through. It's like, hey, this worked for me. That's it. It's like, look, for example, when we talk about music, I'm like, hey, you should try doing this. This is what I suggest this. And a lot of times you still go and you do it your way until we get to the point where you're like, I understand why you do it that way. And sometimes that's necessary. But because I provided another suggestion in your head, at least you know, like, well, damn, I'm going to try to figure it out my way. Or even the conversation that we've had a lot of times where you're like, I'm like, yo, I don't like this person. You're like, hey, I want to give them my own fair chance to figure it out, right? And but you know that you go into that information, you go into that situation knowing that, well, K-Styles doesn't really like this person. Let me kind of look for cues as to why that may be the case. And that little bit of information may prepare you for a situation where I'm right. Or it may prepare you for a situation, well, maybe it's their interaction that makes it different. Because everybody's interaction is different based on their back and forth.
No, you say maybe there's a situation you're wrong.
No.
You avoided saying that.
I said that first.
You can't be smooth. I'm not gonna let you be smooth. You're right or wrong, K-Styles.
Wait, okay. First of all, I said I have no problem saying I'm wrong. I just want to clarify.
Okay.
But I'm saying it could be to my situation. It could be the situation where you and this person have a better interaction, and as a result,
as a result.
So, I'm wrong, but still, whatever.
I just wanted you to say it.
But it could be wrong for you and this person. That's why it's not hard to say wrong, right? Because like it could just be that. Like for example, we could have, me and this person could have rubbed each other wrong, and then it doesn't matter what I do. This person they're not cool with me, but the two of you are cool.
So to bring it back, because I this question has been on my mind because I like to add value to the listeners and stuff like that, right? And this is gonna be a tough one, but this is why Juxtaposed is here. How do we start making it the norm to talk about salaries? Look, check that. This is what I'm saying, bro. The amount of sinus that you just gave, it lets me know like it's tough.
It's hard, man. And the thing about it is, it's been so taboo for so long that we can't have that conversation. Even certain things that are ridiculously taboo. It's like the don't ask a woman their age thing. It baffles the shit out of me. Why? You don't know. You could be missing out on some very critical information because you're not willing to have those conversations.
Well, nowadays, you better.
No.
You don't want to be thrown under the jail.
Realistically, you should have always been okay to ask that. I don't know where that came from. I literally, it's all of these things, I feel like some mad scientist was sitting and was like, hey, we're going to play a practical joke on the world. We're going to make them think. And that's what the day used to mean. It means something completely different these days. But back in the day, we always should blame things on day. And we had no idea who day was. They said it's going to be bad weather. Who the hell is they? You can't even name one, whatever. Anyway. But
right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you start those conversations, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to start here. Hopefully, we could have a little dialogue in the chat and in the comments below. Any suggestions on how we do that? Because I literally don't know. I don't got the answers, bro. I literally don't have the answers. I just know that I try to do it with my circle of people, which my circle of people I think is very curated, and I like the people who I have around me. I have people that are always, driven and focused and, motivated to do more. And sometimes, there's people that are further on the spectrum of their level of success, but they're willing to have the challenging conversations about whatever. And I feel like that makes my circle stronger as a result. So I think you have to start with your friends and see. I mean, honestly, we started this conversation to maybe be a catalyst. Maybe you bring them to this podcast and you say, hey, these guys don't know how to answer the question. How would you? Right? Like that's all I could think. I mean, I really don't know.
But I think part of the reason why we even started this conversation, and I wanted to give these little bits out with New York. What's going on in New York?
Well, they passed a law saying that at least on job postings that you have to post a salary range. Now, in the past, I've only ever seen Colorado listed. So, like, if you're looking for a job, it normally says in the description, it says if they're a remote job or whatever, it says Colorado salary is this. And I'm always like, that's cool. That's good to know, right? So they posted it in New York, and it created a stir because, New York is like financial district and stuff like that. And so you're seeing ridiculously large ranges. So it's like 70K to like 3 million. It's like, what is this? What are we supposed to do with that? But I still think it's good to start the conversation. I know a lot of companies are uncomfortable. I've seen a couple companies jump out and actually do it. I think American Express was one of them that they were they said that we're just gonna post a range for all our salaries
for all the positions.
And I think the range is good. I have no problem with the range because at least you know what to expect in that role. But like when it's just ambiguous and it's based off of unclear metrics or unclear indicators, like how can you ensure you're being paid appropriately for the work you're doing? How?
I think that is part of the conversation, because for it to be a law now, something must have happened where people are like, okay. Usually when laws happen, they're like, yo, someone saw something so crazy where now it's like, yo, don't feed the zoo animals. Someone must have been feeding the zoo animals to the point where they say, yo, you can't do it. So the conversation is happening, but I feel like it must be happening more because New York is hell of a state to like do that in. Like you said, the numbers you were seeing is crazy. And two parts, right? Like I think one part would be they've had that conversation and now they think it's important for people to know. And then two, I think they might even be doing like, hey, if people see these numbers, they might be more inclined to move to New York to get these type of salaries. So,
well, the question is what, like, I don't even know how to phrase this, but like, if you, to your point about, people going to New York to get the salaries, if you have a case where you have it posted, does it actually help the person who's applying for the job make a better decision? Because I know that for me, I've looked at jobs in the past, and I'm like, well, nah, this is not where I want to be. I'm taking a cut. I don't necessarily want to apply for that job. So I don't know.
I do think it makes things more competitive, and that I think is the issue with some companies. It's like, man, if I actually have to compete, am I going to be able to go all full rounds, right? All 12 rounds.
Well,
and it's like, if I don't think I have enough weight to go around those rounds, I'm gonna try to not put myself in that position. But people are like, concerned at this point, and they're like, yo, I do think that having that information there allows that person to make a better decision. But in a company sense, do I really want you to make a better decision? Or do I want to just get who I can get who are really good at the job and get what I need them to do done and not have to pay them?
Well, here's the thing.
From a company aspect.
From a company aspect, you want to make sure you handle stuff like as appropriate to your budget as possible. And I think that what happens in a lot of cases is you won't see like all these ridiculous layoffs for people who are just, getting paid a ton of money when it's time to cut expenses, if they know that, well, this is what my expenses of, this is what my expectation for salaries are. Because that's a big human capitalism, probably the most expensive part of running a business, right? Like that, what you pay your people is going to be some of the most expensive money. So I think it's one of those things where you'll probably be able to run a better, I would say, lean business if everybody was staying to the salaries ranges that you have created. And if you need to update it, that's fine. But at least you know what you're getting into. So
I guess the key to what we're talking about is that salaries should be talked about.
I think it should be a conversation that's had, and I think honestly that's probably why you're seeing more and more states pushing for that. That transparency law is literally creating a space where you're not one, not getting underpaid, two, you know what you're getting into. So this has been a good conversation. I mean, I can see us having this conversation again with a larger group of people. But we wanted to use this as an opportunity to start this conversation. As you said, like, how do we fix it? We start having these conversations. And where do you have a safe place to have these conversations? If you haven't guessed it, it's Juxtaposed. I'm just going to throw it out.
Juxtaposed.
Throw it out there. So, shout out to everybody tuned in. It's been fun again. Let us know what you think. If you think I am wrong and we should never speak about salaries and MVP is right, let us know. If you think MVP is wrong, like the video and then let us know. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, let us know regardless. I think it's important to have the conversation.
I just want to say, just to be clear, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I just have some concerns. So if you want to join me in the conversation about my concerns, please do.
We want to have this conversation because I think even if we have this conversation in the anonymity of the internet, it may help you have this conversation in your job or in your business or whatever, right? So I say all these things to say is this has been fun. We'll see y'all not too far from now. Have a great day and be nice to everybody.